everybody.
Hello.
Thanks for answering. Like, usually people are just sleeping, but it's okay. It's before lunch, or you should be awake now. You had your coffee, you didn't have lunch, you're not sleeping, so should be good. You should be able to survive, 40 minutes with me? My name is Frederic Harper. Fred, you can call me Fred. If French is not your first language, don't try to say Frederic. John's try yesterday. That was the funniest shit ever. I mean, no disrespect, but like it's a complicated name if you try to say it and you don't speak French. So Fred is perfect. I'm a principal developer advocate at KubeFirst. So my job is to give love to developers. I'm the friendly, social, approachable, technical face of the company, and this is basically what I do. During the talk, I don't know if you see maybe on the screen, but like there's my Twitter handle, fharper, H-A-R-P-E-R. Feel free to tweet, share opinions, share the good, bad, ugly things that I'm going to talk about, the things you disagree. If you don't want to ask questions in person, you can do it on Twitter. Let's connect on Twitter. Let's connect on LinkedIn. It doesn't look like that. I'm a social person. So today I'm going to talk about Argo CD. We're going to have some fun. We're going to talk a little bit about GitOps. We're going to talk about the tools that I discovered about a year and a half ago. I really didn't use it before. When I started to work at KubeFirst, that was the tool that was superseding every tool, and I used it and I loved it. And the goal today is to share that love about Argo CD, is to really help you understand that really amazing CD tool that will help you in your GitOps journey, in your cloud native journey, in your Kubernetes journey. But I have a warning. Actually, it's Superman. It's just because that's going to go fast. We only have 40 minutes together. I've seen like Udemy courses about Argo CD that are like 5, 8 hours, 10+ hours. There is a lot of things to know about it. I'm not going to be able to share everything and anything. My goal today is to give you an overview of the tool. On top of that, helping you maybe to like understand that tool and hopefully get started with Argo CD if you are on a cloud native journey. So let's start that. Actually, before we start that, I have some small expectation from people in the room. I hope you know a little bit what Kubernetes is. You don't need to be an expert. You just need to have some basic knowledges. This is my expectation. Also, if you know a little bit about Helm, even you don't need, again, to be an expert. It's just because I'm going to talk about it, but not explain everything and anything. Same thing for Git and YAML. YAML is an acquired taste. Need to be honest. I hated it so much at the beginning. I was a JSON person, loved JSON. And it took a while. It took a while, but I finally loved it. And God, it's so much simpler. Like it's so much cleaner, so much easier to understand. I don't have to put all those brackets and those like double quotes about everything and anything. So yeah, I assume you have a little bit of knowledge. Again, not the end of the world if you don't have all that knowledge for the talk. It's just I'm not going to explain every little details of some of those technologies. Sounds good? Yeah. So far, so good? Yeah. You're following? Yeah, my accent? Really sexy? Yeah. The worst thing when you give a talk is to have Joey in your room. Say like that's the worst thing. So that's the biggest challenge a speaker can have, especially when you know him. With that said, how many of you are familiar with GitOps? Okay. Those of you that did not raise your hand, you can get out of the room. That's a joke. That's a joke. I'm going to take like 3-5 minutes just to give you a high-level overview of GitOps, because you're going to need that part of knowledge to be able to understand the rest of the talks. So this is not GitOps. This is a little more like DevOps. You know, we put our application code on a Git provider, GitHub, GitLab, whatever you want. It can even be other things than Git. I mean, mostly Git these days. I started with, I think, CSV, CVS. That was terrible. I mean, as much as Git seems complicated, so much better for file versioning. Anyway, we have our application code on Git. We have a CI/CD pipeline, always coupled together. It's always together. And that does some magic, some testing, some stuff you have to do. And you deploy this to your traditional cloud. And this is what we are used to do for the last couple of years now. At some point, you may or may not have had infrastructure as code. So basically, you are creating your infrastructure with code. You're defining your infrastructure. Magic thing, love it, big fan of infrastructure as code. It may or may not be part of your DevOps journey. But what's new when we're starting to think about GitOps too is that obviously you're going to have your infrastructure as code. So now it's like it's really part of what you need to have within your GitOps journey. But on top of that, any configuration that makes sense to create your cluster, to deploy your cluster, to make your cluster what you want it to be in production and development and staging needs to be in your Git repository. Another thing that is different, now we're splitting the CI/CD. It becomes 2 words. That's fascinating, or 2 acronyms. So CI still doing its job, like testing stuff, deploying a new chart, doing like whatever a CI does. But there's like the CD that is now, instead of like pushing things to the cloud, and bear with me, I did not know how to put this in a diagram. So it's pulling the information on the mic. It's pulling the information from the Git repository, and it's taking back the information to be able to deploy that on your cluster. And what's happening here is that basically we're going to see it with Argo CD. It's kind of like making a copy. It's cloning your Git repo and getting the information from that. So instead of like pushing the information, the CD is pulling the information into the cluster. Everything you put in your Git repo became your source of truth, meaning that it's not the server anymore. Because as we've seen at the beginning, we're putting your application code in Git, and hopefully, at least for the application code, Git was your source of truth. But you know, we've all done that. There's a small fix to do. Don't have time to commit on Git. I'm just going to deploy on the server, and we all did it. If you said no, you're a liar. We've all done it for sure. And not just that. We changed some configuration. We changed some stuff on the server. What's going to happen with GitOps? Not anymore. You can still do it, but you're going to see it's going to have some consequences. Everything you need to do is in the Git repo. It becomes your source of truth. This is GitOps in a nutshell. Bear with me. I spent 3.5 minutes. Tomorrow at another conference, I'm giving you 45-minute talks just around GitOps. So it's normal for those of you that are new, if you don't grasp everything about GitOps, just understand that like it's a different way to deploy application, and it's really done to make your cloud native an amazing experience. There's a lot of benefits to GitOps. This is one of the rare times that I have list on my screen because I wanted to be sure that I would not forget any benefits. And it's just some of them. You are using familiar tools and processes. Git, you already use it. It's part of your process. You're using infrastructure as code. If you're not new to it, Terraform, let's say, use Terraform. You're used to those TF files. You're used to deploy, to create your infrastructure with infrastructure as code. It brings faster deployment actually, and yeah, let's say faster development. Faster deployment, iteration. It's easily, I struggled with that word in English. Reproducible. Was it good? Yes. Yep. That was good. 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10. 8. Fuck. You should have said 10. I thought you were my friend.
Don't make me pronounce your name again.
Yeah, how do you say Frederic?
Poorly.
40. Yeah, that's a good answer. There's no cluster drift because your source of truth is Git now. Meaning that like if you change things in the cluster, Argo CD or any other tools you're using will look at it and it will say like, hey, you know what? Something's wrong on the server. It is not what you have in Git. Let me remove, add, change, update what is on the cluster to be the exact copy of what is in my Git repository. Because it's using Git, because it's using things with the code, I feel like it's bringing greater collaboration. Because if you have best practices when it comes to Git, you don't commit directly to the main branch. Hey guys, you do PR, you do pull requests, someone's going to review your code. Hopefully someone's not just going to review your code, they're also going to test your code to be sure that like everything you merge in the branch is working well. So for me, I like that because it brings greater collaboration, less prone to error. There's some benefits to it. Because everything is in Git, because everything is a file versioning system, you have auditability, which is not a word I struggle in English. It's more secure because now, instead of like having your CD pipeline, giving access to your CD pipeline to your cloud, to your hosting provider, to your on-prem server, whatever, because the Argo CD agent is within the cluster, you need to give access to your cluster to the Git repo, to Argo CD to your Git repo, which for me, permission-wise, security-wise, is a better thing. There's also simplification of access control. Because again, if I want to deploy something to the server, if I'm a developer and company trusts me enough to deploy things directly on the server, I don't need to have access to the server anymore. I just need to have access to Git. I do a commit, I do my changes, and my CD pipeline, my new CD pipeline focused on GitOps, will take care of those things. In the end, it's cost saving. And because, again, everything is on Git, it's easy to revert and do some rollback changes. It also brings a simple stateless disaster recovery model. Because again, the server is not the source of truth. So what happens tomorrow if your server catches on fire? Doesn't matter much. I have my Git repo. I can recreate the same exact cluster with the same configuration, with the same infrastructure, with the same application, with everything that I deploy on my previous cluster. Same thing, someone used to have access to the server. That person left the company. You screwed? Not anymore. Because again, everything is on Git. So a lot of benefits about GitOps. But that is not a show. Not a show. It's not even a show. That's not a talk about GitOps. I still thought it was important to talk about those things because that's the premises about Argo CD. Don't get me wrong. You see my t-shirt. It's our mascot, K-Ray. It's a manta ray. It's a KubeFirst mascot. I love it. But I have a sweet spot for the Argonaut. This is the Argo project, mascot Argo. Actually, it's not just Argo CD, it's the Argo project, entire Argo project, but it's most of the time used for Argo CD. I just love that logo. This is their logo. What is Argo CD? It's a CD tool made for cloud native and with some GitOps power behind it. It's free, it's open source. There is a gigantic community behind it. And you know what? I'm a terminal person. I spend a big chunk of my life on the terminal. I love command line. But I need to say, the UI of Argo, and I'm going to show it to you right after, of Argo CD is just amazing. It's just a great UI when you can grasp all the information about your cluster in a blink of an eye, if you read fast, because maybe you have a big cluster with a lot of things. It's really nice to get the logs, find the information. It's easier to set the right permission to the right people. Let's say, again, you're a little more like security focused and you know what? You don't trust your developers. You should, but maybe you don't. You don't trust your developers. You can give them like just view access to Argo CD so they can see when they do a change on Git, like what's happening with that change. Let's say Argo CD syncing stuff, is the application healthy, and you don't need to give them access to the cluster directly or to any other like more administrative feature of Argo CD. One other thing I really like is the real-time updates. There is sync status about everything, every resources that you deploy to your cluster. You have the current state, you have the desired state, you have the application health. And let me show you what it is. But before that, I have another slide. So there is another concept that is quite important called repositories inside Argo CD. And this is where the GitOps magic happen if you use Hap of Haps pattern. Also, what you can do is you can install Argo CD. It's a simple kubectl. Okay, let's do something. Do you say, people doing Kubernetes stuff, do you say kubectl or do you say the wrong way of saying it, kubectl? Oh, you're all wrong. All right, it's kubectl. So now that we set that matter and we know that it's kubectl, so you can deploy Argo CD with just a simple kubectl command to a cluster. You're going to have the Argo CD, and where the magic really happens, and I'm not going to show you all that magic today because you probably realize right now the Wi-Fi is not your friend doing those kind of demos right now. But I'm going to show you already deploy cluster on Argo CD, and there's a repository, so you can connect to a repository, either a Git repository or Elm repositories, where you have a lot of charts. If you want to be more GitOps-centric, I would suggest that you connect to a Git repo, but I want to be transparent here. There's another wrong way of doing that. No, there's another way of doing that, but I would say let's focus on Git. So let me show you a nice, beautiful cluster. So I create my cluster with KubeFirst because I'm lazy. I don't want to install everything and anything. And you know what? Let me go to Argo CD. Here. Which is okay. We have IDC, so we use Vault to connect to the different services that we install it, and hopefully I changed the password of the admin users. I did. Good job, Fred. Good job, past Fred. So now I have all the beautiful things happening in Argo CD. I'm going to go in the registry. This is what we call our app of apps patterns. I'm going to show you in the GitOps repository that feed Argo CD what everything is there is installed. So I have like Cert Manager, I have Atlantis, I have Crossplane install, I have external secrets, I have Nginx, Ingress Controller, I have different components installed. And what I really like, and probably not seeing super well, oh, the other way around now, is what I really like if I go check, let's say the first component. If I go here, I have a view about my first component. I can click here. I can see the manifest if the Wi-Fi let me see it. And I see that, like, yeah, it's a sample project. So there is also projects in Argo CD that are basically like grouping application together. So it's a good way to group the application. And what I'm going to see here is everything that has been deployed. So I have like service account, application, a job, external secret, role binding, and I have my pod, and everything is there. As you see at the top, or maybe you don't. That's big. There's the sync status. So now I'm saying, hey, this is the last commit that I found on your Git repo, and it was synced. And the current sync status on your cluster is like, hey, it's synced. It's not the same commit, which is, I think, just no. It said sync. If I hit synchronize, we'll see how it goes. But during that time, okay, it was not synced. So sometimes things happen. But let me show you in the GitOps repo here, which is my source of truth. This is what feed, or part of what feed my Argo CD deployment. So this is a structure that we decided to do at KubeFirst. Like, you don't have to follow that structure. There is no, as far as I know, there is no like predefined best practices of like how you should structure your GitOps repo. With that said, there is the, what is the group doing, like working on a GitOps principle and?
Open GitOps.
Open GitOps, yeah. That was too simple for me to remember. So Open GitOps are working about like GitOps principle, and I assume at some point they're working on like some best practices, like how you should, or not how you should, like what would be a good way to define your GitOps repo. But here we have our infrastructure as code in the Terraform folder. What we did to create our cluster on Civo, because yeah, we chose Civo. It's a great cloud provider. And we have a Terraform file there. We also create some GitOps repo because you have like a lot of Terraform providers for a lot of things, including GitHub and GitLab. We also create users and a lot of stuff. But what I want to show you is the registry here. We decided to structure this with cluster. This is the name of my cluster. Thank Christian. Really bad name. And here you're going to see I have my registry YAML, which is my app of apps. So what I'm doing here in my YAML, I'm saying like, hey, use that Git repo, which is the one I am in, and the path to that folder. So Argo CD, if I go in Argo CD here, I go to setting, I go to repositories. I will see in a second that we connected Argo CD to that GitOps repo, which became my source of truth. So now Argo CD is looking here and it's saying like, hey, there is that app of apps thing, and like it is in that folder. So I hate when it does that. I don't know how to go back. Yeah, okay. I go back here and it's pointing to that folder. No, it's pointing to that folder. It's not pointing to that folder. It's pointing to that folder. And let's say if I go Chart Museum here, Chart Museum is also pointing to my component folder, and if I go there, I'm going to see like everything I need to deploy, which is a bunch of YAML file. We have one for the application with a lot of like configuration. Again, I'm not going to go in details in YAML. We have external secret way here, and I think it's a job here. Oh, service account with role binding. So we do a lot of things here, but Argo CD, look in that repo at the beginning when we created that and we connected to the repository. Argo CD looked and it was like, hey, I have nothing of those things in the Kubernetes cluster. So let's sync everything. Let's deploy all those resources in my cluster. Make sense so far? You can say no.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes was better. So to deploy application, I've shown you one way of doing that, meaning that like you go to GitOps way, you go declarative, you put your YAML file in your GitOps repo, and you connect your repository to Argo CD, and the magic will happen. If you don't want to go specifically to the GitOps route, there is another way. You can still go declarative and kubectl apply directly to your repo. You can use Argo CD CLI. They also have a CLI. You need to install it, and after that, you can deploy your application in your cluster. And you can use the UI also to deploy your application. There's a way to do that where you go here, you click plus, and now that is really to, and you enter the information a little bit like you would do in your YAML declaratively. And one trick that I like, I learned that from John in the live stream. I just thought like I was like too brilliant for John, so he probably picked it somewhere else. But like he had the information on which application you want to deploy. And if you don't remember how to write the YAML syntax, once you're done with putting the information, either installing through Git or either installing a chart to Helm, you click edit YAML and you can copy the YAML file and put it in your GitOps repo if you don't remember how to write it and you really want to go the GitOps way. But I would be able to deploy an application directly within the Argo CD UI. And speaking of application, let me deploy a new one. So I'm going to go back here in my cluster folder. I'm going to do this, what I call the right way, doing this the GitOps way. So I'm going to call it flappy.yaml. And I'm going to be lazy, have a shortcut. And what's happening here, quickly, let me show you. I'm having an application with a manifest created for Argo CD to understand. There's something really nice here, a sync wave, but I'm going to get back to it right after because this is one of the things that is really exciting about it. I define my application. It's a Helm chart. I had a second manifest within my file, which is an ingress controller, just because I want to be able to access my application at that URL. If I go here, it's not working. It's resolving the right way because, to be honest, I deployed the application before the talk just to be sure the DNS would propagate and certificate and everything. But as you see, it's not there. If I go in Argo CD, I go in my registry, and I zoom back a little bit. I search for Flappy, it's not there. I can go here too, search for Flappy, and you won't see it because it's not there. So let me go back to the registry. Let me go back here. I'm going to do something that you should not do at home. I'm going to commit directly on main. I know. I'm the first one complaining at John when we do a live demo, like, hey, don't do this at home, kids. You should not commit directly on main. But if I go back here, already, Argo CD fetch my Git repo, and it started to sync Flappy Carry. If I go there, it's not LT yet because not everything is deployed, and it's nearly done there. So now it's deploying a bunch of things that my application needs to be functioning. And again, the only thing I've done, I had a YAML file within my GitOps repo, and it's already there. And let's hope that the DNS God will be with us. And it is there. So now I have my very little stupid and frustrating game, which is basically Flappy Bird. Silly to say that within all the Cube first employee, I'm still the one with the high score. Just want to say that on record since we're recording. But yeah, I deployed that game. I realized it was just adding a YAML file to my Git repo. So deploying an application the GitOps way with Argo CD, once you connect the repository, really easy to go. There's something really nice about Argo CD. It's called the phases and the sync waves, which is basically, that was the title of my talk, like surfing on sync wave. This is the sexy part of the talk. Hopefully, I find it sexy. You can have different opinions, but you should not, because that is really the nicest thing about Argo CD, except the UI. There is 3 phases: pre-sync, sync, and post-sync. Most of the time you're going to use sync, but you kind of understand there's like a pre-sync if there's any task you want to do before, like syncing your application, before your applications got deployed, whatever you need to deploy, whatever resources. And there is the post-sync if you want to do some stuff after. What's interesting is that Argo CD is a CD pipeline, but they have another project, Argo Workflow. We cheat a little bit on Kubefirst. We use Argo Workflow and we do some kind of like CI stuff with Argo Workflow. So I would say like a post sync could be like, hey, your sync was to deploy, I don't know, MySQL, and your post sync would be like, hey, I need to put some dummy data because that's a demo application of our product, or I need to do a demo or something. So you have those phases to be able to decide what you want to do before, what you want to do after. And there's other hooks also, like when it's successful, when it fails, and some of those things. But those are the three phases that you need to remember. But on top of that, what's really interesting are the sync wave. So the sync wave, it's a number that you put within your YAML file to define when or in which order you want your stuff to be synced. Pretty simple so far. You can go from a negative number to a positive number. I suggest, because the default sync is 0, I suggest that you use mostly positive number. As I said, the default sync. So if you don't put a sync wave in your YAML, the default is going to be 0. So I suggest you go upward and you continue after that. So how you're going to use those sync wave is to define in which order which applications or which resources need to be deployed. But Argo CD will have some predefined orders. So you're going to start with the phases. Let's say now we are in the sync phase. It's going to start with the lowest sync wave number, go in ascending order. So from the smallest number to the biggest one. After that, you can use the same sync wave from different resources. What Argo will do, it will sync in kind order. And it's predefined kind order. You can find that information in their docs. You're going to start with, I have a typo, with namespaces. After that, services, deployments, and so on. And after that, if you have the same sync wave, you need to say that like 10 times without like struggling. The same sync wave. If you have the same sync wave with the same kind of resources, after that, Argo will go through name ascending to go through the sync phases. Before I show you how it's working, I need to say kind of like a warning. For me, the sync waves are the most exciting feature of Argo CD. Sadly for me, about 6 months ago, Argo CD changed by default how they manage the sync wave. For performance reasons, it's what they said on the documentation and some GitHub issues. Now, before moving to the next sync wave, they're looking to see if the previous sync wave is fine, is green. Prior to that, they were looking if the previous sync wave is green, but also if whatever was deployed, health was green. And now they removed the help part to go faster, which is fine in some cases. But like if you do the apps of apps, if you really want to manage your sync waves, you probably want to be sure that like the previous resources that was synced is completely deployed and accessible before you move to the next step. Like things we do with Kubefirst, like when you use Kubefirst to create your cluster, we deploy like a lot of tools together. But like before, like let's say we start with Argo CD, and after that, before deploying, before deploying another tool, we want to be sure that Vault's going to be there because we need to have access to the secrets. So it makes sense for us to have HashiCorp Vaults running, being healthy, and accessible before moving to the next step. So why I'm showing you that code, it's just to say that, and it is in their documentation. It's not something we invented. What we say is that we had a config map, and it's some Lua code. Basically, it's saying that like before moving to the next sync wave, we override how it checked if everything is healthy. So instead of checking just the sync wave, if the sync wave is green, we say like, hey, the sync wave will be okay for comparing that and moving to the next sync wave only if the resource health is also green. So we kind of like override and go back to the previous pattern. And I'm telling you that because what I'm going to show you as a demo is the previous way of Argo CD to work, and which I think is the good way, let's say, to use Argo CD. And it's really opinionated. It is because we use half of apps pattern, and it makes a lot more sense. And I feel it gave us more controls on the sync wave. If you don't need that, you don't need that. But I wanted to be transparent because if you try to do the same demo that I'm going to do in a second, when I stop talking, I like talking, so I will probably talk for more than 1 second. But after I'm done, I'm going to show you the demo. You're going to see that, like, if you try this at home without that config map, when you deploy Argo CD on a new cluster, you won't have the same result, meaning that, like, it will go a lot faster, and the next sync wave will start to sync before the previous one is LT. So the sync will be done, but the resources of whatever you're deploying won't be LT yet, or may not be LT yet, before the sync wave move to the next step. And now this is the time we pray for the Wi-Fi. So let me be lazy and port forward. So I install, it's not the cluster that I've shown you. I create another demo cluster, empty cluster. I install Argo CD before the demo. Hopefully I'm on the right one. If I go on localhost, anyway, you're going to see a big difference. It's empty. There is nothing in there. What I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to apply a registry, and I'm going to show you the content before running that command. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm applying an app of apps pattern. I have this in my workshop repo here, an Argo CD, in sync wave registry. I have my, we call this registry. It's my app of apps pattern. That again, same thing as before, pointing in that exact same repo in that folder, and I'm gonna kubectl apply that to my repo. So I'm not going to GitOps way for the demo. I just want to show you another way to install an application through your cluster with Argo CD. And I have two, not application, I have two other apps of apps again here. So I have a 0 wave. Actually, this is a 10 wave file that I'm showing you. Whoa, stop that. You're gonna see I have a sync wave of 10. That's pointing to the registry 10 wave folder. If I check the 0 wave, just to show you, the sync wave is 0, the default one, but we'll put it for the demo so it's clearer. If I go in 0 wave, I have 3, not application, for the sake of the demo, they're jobs. It's basically just like an Ubuntu image that is sleeping 30 seconds so we can see the sync wave in case it goes too fast. And you're gonna see the first file is sync wave 0, the next one, the file name 10 wave. What do you think is gonna be the sync wave? You are brilliant people. That is exactly right. If I click there, you're going to see my sync wave. It's going to be 10. And what about the 20?
20. I bet it's 20.
No, I put 30 just to get rid. No, it is 20. So you get the gist of it. So I have a apps of apps, a registry pointing to two app of apps that are 0 wave, 10 wave. They each have 3 jobs that are 0, 10, 20 wave. And if I go back to that Argo CD and I apply that, and we all cross our fingers that Jared's phone tethering is going to work well. I'm going to see here, and I'm going to see the start of the deployment. If I go in my registry, you're going to see the 0 wave and the 10 wave. If I check the 10 wave, oh, sorry. If I check the 10 wave here, you're going to see, you're not going to see. Oh, it's not even started to sync. Yeah, I'm too fast. Let's go back to 0 wave, actually. So you're going to see, actually, 10 wave did not start to synchronize because 0 wave is not done. And as you see right now, the 0 sync wave sync, but it's not LT yet. So if I go look in it, now I'm going to see my 3 application jobs. The first one is synced, is being deployed. So now I have my pod. I wait 30 seconds. The second one that started, second one that started is the 10 sleep. So the sync wave that is a 10. Once it's done, you're going to see the 20 sleep job. It's going to start. And if I go here, and if I have the time, you're going to be able to see, like, there is no live manifest yet. This is the desired manifest. And the difference now is just like it's everything. But like, let's say I do a modification in GitOps and I change the sleep to 16. It was previously synced and deployed or run. I'm going to see the difference there. So this is also a thing that I really love within the Argo CD UI. Again, I'm a terminal person. You can get all that information with the Argo CD CLI. But seriously, it's just sexy to have everything like that in the browser. It's just beautiful. Does it make you cry a little? That's so beautiful. No? So now, waiting for the last sync wave, and I'm just going to go back one page. Actually, let's just go back here. Easy. And should finish in a second or two. And you're going to see, there we go. The second sync wave of my apps is now sync. And now it's starting to do the same process. Oh, I didn't click it the right place. Starting to do the same process, going with the job 0, after that the job 10, after the job 20. And this is the beauty of Argo CD, because when you have those sync waves, when you have that health status, this is where the magic happens. This is where you can really orchestrate how you're going to deploy and create that cluster. Is it beautiful? It is. It is beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I thought it was you. Sorry. Oh, you did. Yeah, okay. Yeah, come on. But not for me, for Argo CD. It's like, I need to say that it's not done. My talk is not done. She doesn't like me. So, surfing the wave. In the end, you end up with that complicated diagram, which is basically part GitOps, part Argo CD, meaning that like you go through the same process as usually. You're gonna go on Git, you're gonna do a modification, someone's gonna review your PR because you're not gonna commit directly on main branch. Everything's gonna go fine. Your CI is gonna do some testing, some deploying, some like creating a new chart, new images, do whatever you have to do with your CI. Argo CD will pull the information, pull a copy of your Git repo, calculate the desired state, identify the divergences. I like that word. I feel like nice when I say that in English. Attempt to sync. It may fail. And tips, when it does, it's usually your fault. Not Argo CD. You did something wrong in the YAML. If it works, provide the sync result in the UI, deploy things on your cluster, and you're good to go. So some resources to get started. argoproj.github.io/cd or no/cd, and you get on the main page of the Argo projects. They have Argo workflow. They have some other projects. Seriously, thanks to the people, the community behind it. As far as Intuit is one of the big contributor behind the project, but there's a lot of like open source contributors. So thanks for doing that job. It's pretty nice. There are some alternative out there if you're familiar to like CD pipeline and GitOps and like things around CNCF. There's the Flux project, Flux CD. There's also an alternative to Argo CD. The goal of that talk is not to show the difference, not to start a war about what technology you prefer. We know we each like our own stuff. But I found an article, really simple, couple of lines. I don't remember who wrote it. bit.ly/argo-vs-flux. It's a good article that highlights high level the difference between Flux CD and Argo CD. They have all their pros and cons. Big fan of Argo CD, hence the talk, for different reasons. Again, the things that I said at the beginning, just love it. I need to say that because, you know, my boss, they're in the room. So if you want to try Argo CD easily and you want to deploy a cluster easily on Civo and other cloud, even if you want to, go on QFirst.io. It's a great thing if you don't know the platform, or even if you're new to cloud native or Kubernetes and you want to get started and have like a full-fledged production-ready cluster. That's a good tool. It's free. It's open source. You can go there in minutes. You're going to have like what I call a full-fledged production ready with the Atlantis, Terraform stuff, Vault, Cert Manager, and a lot more other tools that we think you need to be successful and have, again, a production-ready cluster. You've seen the beautiful interface at the beginning. Anyway, it's out there. It's also a good way, even if you're not new to cloud native, to learn a little more about Argo CD and try stuff. And because it's so easy to install and destroy, try things. Break things, you're good to go. And it's a good thing to try. Lastly, this one is not a promo about the product. It's more, we have a Slack community. It's not just about our product. If you don't use QFirst, it's fine. I'm still going to love you. But if you have questions about Argo CD, it's the best place to go because it's just a cloud native, fun community, and we have an Argo channel. You don't use our product, you use Argo, you have question, you have concern, it's not working, come ask us. It's not just us. I'm just a beginner with Argo CD, I can help you, but we have like those two stooges in the front, John and Jared, who are the expert. With that said, I'm running out of time soon, which means that I'm not going to be able, I didn't time my things well, I'm not going to be able to take questions during the talks. I'm going to be a little bit outside the room, but unfortunately I have to fly back. I have to go to the airport quite right after my talk because I need to go back home for another conference tomorrow. But if you see those two faces and you have Argo CD, GitOps question, Kubernetes question, cloud native question, Vault question, question about your marriage, if you want to adopt a cat or a dog, ask those guys. They're friendly, they're nice. Talk to them. With that said, my name is Fred. Let's connect on LinkedIn. Let's connect on Twitter. Send me an email. Ping me on Twitter if you have any question. Argo CD, cloud native, Kubernetes, whatever. I said it. Didn't look friendly. This guy looked friendly. Pretty handsome too. Pretty handsome too. Awesome and handsome. So yeah, ping me. F Harper on Twitter. Fred@kubefirst.io. Always happy to help if I can. So on that note, I wish you a great rest of the conference. That was amazing to be here. I was supposed to be at the first Navigate in North America, but I was coming back from a trip in India and I was so sick that I didn't come. So just too much detail. Just happy to be here. So yeah, thanks for coming, and hopefully you're all going to become Argo CD users. Have a good one.